Awesome. Welcome back, everybody. We are live here on the AWS End User Computing Innovation Day. Welcome back. And what a lineup we've had so far with our keynote from Munir, our fireside chat with Alex and Sean. We've had such a packed day. And I have to say, I mean, Workspaces Core is really taking not only us today with this big launch that we've had, but let's talk about what it means for IT professionals out there. It's taking that undifferentiated heavy lifting off of your shoulders. And that's such a big impact, especially if you're experiencing limited resources across your organization.
That's exactly right, Holly. I think the big takeaway here is that for those IT professionals that are running their end user computing environments, whether those are virtual desktops, whether those are applications, all of those things are going to be much easier to operate with your existing systems. So nobody that I've talked to wants to do capacity planning. Nobody wants to manage their own servers and like handle all the fine tuning on that infrastructure. Workspaces Core will take a lot of that undifferentiated heavy lifting, as you said, away from the folks that are having to do that today, and let them really focus on the things that are giving their organizations more competitive advantage, like actually investing in things that differentiate companies using their technology. So I think it's going to be great.
Super exciting. I mean, check out the website. We've posted a handful of QR codes for you to go to. Please, lots of information is being shared out there. One thing that we're actually seeing, and some of you have been asking in the chat channel about, Amazon Workspaces Core is a new introduction to the EUC category of services. It includes Amazon Workspaces, our Amazon Workspaces Web, Amazon Workspaces Core, as we mentioned, our newest service. And of course, we also do have our Amazon AppStream 2.0. A lot of services available for you to choose from, depending on your use cases and your needs. And you know what? We recognize that choice also might bring some questions. When do you choose what service? What's the right time?
Yeah.
And maybe there's a combination of services. Well, we've actually brought the expert in the room to help us figure that out. His name is Andrew Wood, goes by Andy, a good friend of ours who's going to help us really understand when to pick the right service for your use case. Andy, so glad you're here with us today.
So am I. Cool. Do you need me to start?
We'll kick it over to you, please.
Well, that's awesome. I thought the introduction was just going to introduce somebody else. Welcome. I'm the first of many Andrews today. You can tell me apart from the others because I've got the English accent. And I'm going to be talking to you about picking the right EUC service for your needs, as Holly most helpfully introduced. The ultimate measure of someone is not where they stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy, said Martin Luther King Jr. That's a very lofty quote, Andrew, for what I thought was going to be a very simple feature comparison set. Now, there is comfort and convenience in having a pay-as-you-go managed service to help you with your application remote desktop needs. But there's also challenge and controversy in finding the right service for your use case, for your business needs, for your customers, for your users. And so, my friends, this is what we're going to talk to today. We're going to go through the differences in the services, the complementary pieces in the services, and the questions that you should be asking in order to pick the right service or services for what it is that you need to help you deliver for your business, for your customers, for your users. There are a range of services. If there are parents in the room with more than one child, all right, just me then, you'll be often asked, which one is your favourite? For me, that's by my children themselves. It's a similar question for customers when they're faced with the increasing number of EUC services that AWS offers. Which one is the best? Now, there are similarities between the services. Each one, fully managed service, will do all of the heavy lifting for you, leaving you just with the option of managing the operating environment so it meets your security needs, with applications that you need to deliver for your users to bring in that data that Kevin talked about in an earlier session. There's a similarity in that for all of the services, upstream, the Workspaces family, one instance per user. There's no multi-session sharing. That one instance per user is the most cost-effective way of being able to scale out and to scale back in again. One user per instance is the most cost-effective way of operating. At the same time, there are differences. Upstream, for example, has been mentioned, I think you mentioned this, Robbie, that upstream are non-persistent sessions. So when a user logs on, uses and consumes the session, runs their application, and then logs off. That instance is terminated, it's removed, it's deleted. When they log on again, it's a brand new session from that base image. There's no continuity for that user of the application environment. Now with Workspaces, Workspaces core, sessions are persistent. When a user logs onto their workspace, or Workspaces core environment, that session is dedicated to them. It could be configured so that their applications that they need are presented to them straight away, or we could give users the ability to install their own applications. For Workspaces, Workspaces core, when they log off and log back on again, it's the same instance that they logged off from. It should be in the same state. Maybe there's been some patching, some updates, and there needs to be a reboot, but fundamentally, that session will persist while the users are logged on. And when they log off, it persists for them throughout the life of that instance. And Workspaces Web is a non-persistent instance offering a secure managed browser. So Andrew, we've got 4 different services. Which one is the best for our needs? Let's dive deeper into that. Now, creating a technology solution is, even a fully managed technology solution, is very much like building a physical building. You've got to get the foundation right in order to ensure that what's built is fit for purpose, that won't be failing, that will operate correctly, that will be a solid residential area, piece building, whatever, but that will be what it is that you need it to be. Now, in order to have that firm foundation, you should build on good pillars. At AWS, we have our well-architected principles. There are 5: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and of course, cost optimization. Now, these pillars, these foundations, are what should be driving the questions for you in terms of selecting the right service or services for your end user compute, for your virtual applications or your virtual desktops. So let's take operational excellence first. I know you're asking, what is operational excellence? Well, it is excellence in operations. Essentially, it's making sure that the environment that you are operating is working as well as it can. Have you optimized it for use? Are you reducing the effort that you need in order to manage and deliver the environment for your users or for your customers? From an EUC point of view, that can cover a number of aspects. It's requirements for the operating system. You're delivering applications. What operating system is required or is supported by the application vendors that you're delivering for? What's the deployment method for your applications? Is it that you've already got a deployment method and you want to reuse that? You want to automate that so that there's a reliable method of application deployment across your desktops as well as your virtual desktop environment. And then, in order to ensure operational excellence, how are you monitoring that service? What feedback are you getting to say that the service is healthy so that you're not relying on the users to tell you that something is broken, that you can be proactive? And it's not only about monitoring so that you've got the capability of understanding whether it's running or not, but is it running efficiently? Can there be cost savings from the data that you're getting back from the environment that you've created? There is a lot to unpack here. Kevin, if you're watching, you can put on your glasses. There is a lot of data, or sit back, close your eyes, bask in the beauty of the spoken word. Let's go through these items. For operating system, AppStream has a range of Windows operating systems from 2012 R2, 2016, 2019. There's a broad range there of application environments. AppStream, very useful for supporting those applications that are maybe legacy, not in your desktop today, but you still need to keep them running. Also support for Amazon Linux too. Workspaces. Workspaces has a broad range of operating system environments. Yes, Windows 2016, 2019. Yes, Amazon Linux 2, just like AppStream. We've seen today, Ubuntu is now available. And if your applications require Windows 10, Workspaces or Workspaces Core can help you deliver Windows 10 remote desktops to your users to run the applications that require Windows 10. Workspaces Web, that's running Amazon Linux 2. We're fully managing that service for you. No need to be decisive on that particular operating system environment. What about the deployment model? With AppStream, yes, we could integrate with an existing service that you're using to deploy your applications. Maybe it's SCCM, maybe it's Chef, maybe it's Puppet, maybe it's AN other. You can use that tooling to deliver both to your AppStream image builder environment or to Workspaces, Workspaces Core, just as you're doing today. AppStream is very useful for delivering those applications that can't be automated, because you could use the image builder to do that manual, complicated installation without having to visit every user's desktop. Once with the image builder and expand out using the AppStream pay-as-you-go capability. For the deployment model for Workspaces Web, you're just delivering a secure browser, so there's no need to integrate that with an existing environment. And for monitoring services, all of the services have capability of providing feedback on the service health. Consider, though, for AppStream, it's a non-persistent environment. So if you wanted to retain logs, maybe for troubleshooting or for some extra information, security logs, for example, make sure with AppStream that you're collating those centrally. Given that Workspaces, Workspaces Core are persistent, you could query the Workspaces directly for their logs. But there can be an advantage in bringing the logs centrally so you can analyze at scale. Security, very important. Security key, not only for data in terms of data at rest, data in transit, but security for how are users authenticating to the service? What's the mode of authentication? How does that work? And given that it's a remote desktop, remote application, do we need to do some sort of security posture stance on the end device? And quite often we're running within AWS services. We're accessing other AWS services, not just Workspaces. Can we make use of identity and access management profiles so that users or support teams can interact with the service and other services within AWS? Again, that basking moment. Kevin, you can put your glasses back on. If we talk about authentication, Workspaces, Workspaces Core must have an Active Directory environment. You can extend your Active Directory from your existing data center on-premises environment, or you can create a new Active Directory in AWS for your Workspaces. But one must exist for Workspaces, Workspaces Core. Now, AppStream can integrate with Active Directory, but AppStream doesn't require Active Directory. We've got a number of customers who want to move away from an Active Directory environment or don't require that extra cost of Active Directory. They can deliver applications and desktops using AppStream because AppStream doesn't need to be Active Directory domain joined. In terms of authentication points, AppStream SAML authentication with Workspaces, you've got SAML or MFA, and now with Workspaces Core, your authentication mechanism is dependent on who is integrated with that particular service. Workspaces Web uses SAML authentication as well. Now, in terms of encryption, AppStream, Workspaces, Workspaces Web, the protocol used there is encrypted. So from the instance to the end device, the data traffic, the streaming traffic is encrypted. With Workspaces, you can encrypt the data at rest. So when the data is stored in that persistent desktop, the data can be encrypted. Now with AppStream and Workspaces Web, they're non-persistent instances. So the the ability to encrypt the operating system drive isn't available today. That doesn't mean that you couldn't save data to encrypted drives, but the operating system isn't encrypted. Now, in terms of Workspaces core and the encryption of the remote protocol, you do you know your remote protocol that you're integrating with core. I expect today most modern remote protocols will have encryption. I anticipate that you've got the same. When it comes to identity and access management, for all of the services, you can use IAM in order to provide support teams or administration teams access to the service so that you can administer on users' behalf. Now, with AppStream, you can assign IAM profiles to a fleet so that when a user logs on to that AppStream instance, they've got an IAM profile assigned to them so they could access other resources without having to have extra credentials within the AppStream instance. Reliability. We want our services to be reliable because everything fails all of the time. Now, that could be at an instance level for an individual workspace or AppStream instance, or it could be at a wider level. Quite often, customers are coming to us and talking about using Workspaces, AppStream, the EUC services to help them with disaster recovery or business continuity solutions. Or if we consider the EUC family, Workspaces family, AppStream, autonomy. Let's look at it from an individual instance point of view. AppStream, yes, you've got your instance, and we talked about it being a non-persistent instance. So if a Windows application or an Amazon Linux application goes wrong, user can terminate their session, end their session, disconnect, and then when they log back on again, they've got a new instance, they can be back up and running in a matter of minutes. With Workspaces, yes, you can create a custom image with all of the applications and have a workspace or Workspaces core environment whereby you've defined the applications. They might still go wrong. Users can end their session and opt to reboot it or restart it, or they can rebuild it. You can give users that capability, or you can have admins or support teams do it on their behalf. That's also useful because with Workspaces, Workspaces core, you can give users admin rights. And potentially they've made a mistake and then they might want to restore their workspace back to a last known good. And with Workspaces Web, in a similar fashion to AppStream, that's a non-persistent instance. If it goes wrong, terminate the session, start again, and you're back in a new Workspaces Web instance. I've got figures for network latency. Why? In terms of reliability, you might want to be considering, look, I've got my workspaces in region X, but I want to have workspaces in region Y just in case. So then there's the consideration in terms of reliability. What's the impact for the user experience going to be? If I make my virtual desktop application in a region that is far away, that's going to have an impact on the user experience. It's going to take longer for that streaming session to arrive. So consider the different protocol requirements in terms of network latency when designing for reliability. If I consider for disaster recovery or business continuity, all of the services allow you to take those custom images and put them in a different region and spin up resources in an alternative region so that you're creating an environment that can handle DR or business continuity. With AppStream, you're taking the base image and then creating new fleets in a different region that users can connect to. With Workspaces, yes, you can take a custom image and place it somewhere else, but these are persistent images, so there's a consideration for standing up workspaces for a user in a different region because you need to dedicate that instance. Similar with Workspaces core. With Workspaces Web, as it's non-persistent, very much like AppStream, configure your Workspaces Web environment in a different region, and in the event of a business continuity issue or a DR issue, point your users to the Workspaces Web environment. Performance efficiency. What we want to do is ensure that we're creating an EUC service that is performant for the users and for the application. We want them to be working well, working quickly, doing what they need to do in the shortest time possible. Now, it's not only about running well, but am I giving the user access to the resources that they need? So from a performance efficiency point of view, do I, as a user, using my remote desktop, using my remote application, have access to the local resources that I need? All of these are considerations for performance efficiency for EUC. And let's also consider, we talked about for reliability, DR, business continuity, what regions are available. That's not only for DR business continuity, but also I might have users in a range of regions, and I want to make sure that the instance that they're using, be it an application or a desktop, is close to them so that their performance efficiency, their way of working, is optimized. Again, another basking moment. Again, Kevin, if you've got your glasses, put them on. From an end user device integration point of view, AppStream, typically used with a browser. There's a range of access and capabilities, but with the Windows AppStream client, you've got some enhanced capability. You can have local printer redirection in a more seamless fashion. You've got local file access in a more seamless fashion. Workspaces. Workspaces has a range of protocols. With WSP, the Workspaces streaming protocol, you've got access to some additional capabilities. You've got card reader support. You've got webcam support. Are those important to you? That might drive your requirements for Workspaces as opposed to other services. And yet, with Workspaces Core, we're allowing third parties to make use of Workspaces, and there might be a whole plethora of extra resources and capabilities that you can make use of in terms of performance efficiency. Now you've got access to the APIs for Workspaces Core. Workspaces Web is a secure browser accessed from a web browser. Now, in terms of application hardware, yes, we could have one instance for every single instance type, but that's not going to be performance efficient. Different applications will require different instance types, different hardware. They'll require different memory, different CPU numbers, GPU numbers. What's the requirement for your applications? Can you improve on what it is that you're delivering today? With AppStream, there's over 30 different instance types that can be aligned with applications. We've got a number of customers who look to AppStream because their application has a very large hardware requirement, lots of CPU, lots of memory. They could provide devices with that requirement, but by using AppStream, they can run that application in the AppStream environment in AWS and not have to provide expensive end devices. It could be more generic end device. They're running the application within AWS. And in fact, they could improve the performance efficiency by even larger instances. We've got customers who have larger AppStream instances that reduces rendering time. So instead of it taking weeks, it can take a weekend in order to complete tasks for their users. It's far more performant efficient to make use of the resources in that pay-as-you-go model. Workspaces has a range of instance types that you can fit for your applications. And Workspaces Core has a similar instance type in terms of the base instances and also a couple of graphics instances as well. Workspaces Web is offering a secure browser, so there's just a single instance type needed for that. We'll manage that on your behalf. And in terms of global scale, I leave you with the regions and capabilities for AppStream, for Workspaces, and for Workspaces Web that increased this year. I think it's 13 for AppStream, more regions for Workspaces. There tends to be an overlap for both Workspaces and AppStream, but do look for your particular region, for your particular use case, and match up accordingly. And cost optimization. Where would we be without cost optimization? You could argue that it's part of operational excellence. You could argue it's part of performance efficiency, but cost optimization should be looked at holistically across the service. Yes, when you did your initial design, you've brought in cost optimization considerations, but it should be an ongoing process. It's not just at the design phase, it should be forever something that you look to optimize. From an EUC perspective, cost optimization can be about migrating users. Do I use existing devices or do I create new devices for users or buy in new devices? I used to provide devices for users. Do I still need to do that? Can I make use of the fact that the session is running remotely in a secure environment and I'm streaming it to the endpoint? Can I allow users to bring their own device? Concurrency of use. How many users do I need to be running at the same time? Obviously, each with their own independent session, because that's the best, most cost-effective for scaling out and scaling in. And then what's the use profile of individual users? Do they need their instance, their application environment running all of the time? Or do they just need it for a couple of hours a week? That can have an impact on use. And is the user still using that environment? Have they finished with that particular project? Have they left the organization? We don't want to be running resources where we don't need to be running resources to align with that pay-as-you-go model. The final time, Kevin, that you need to put on your glasses. And if you are relaxing your eyes and basking in the spoken word, this is our final time together. Concurrency of use. So with AppStream, I can define how large the AppStream fleet is going to grow and how it will contract. I can make use of elastic fleets, so I don't even have to worry about setting up that scaling out and scaling in policy. The elastic fleets will do that on your behalf. Now, workspaces, yes, you can have many workspaces being used by users concurrently, but you have to build a workspace before the user can use and consume it. Be the same for Workspaces core. Workspaces Web operates in a very similar way to AppStream in that you define the number of users and then we'll manage the scaling policy for you. Now, from an end device point of view, AppStream, as we've spoken about, uses a web browser, or can use a web browser, HTML5 web browser in order to provide access. And a Windows client is already available, so is available today, so you can use Windows devices, or you can use a device that runs an HTML5 browser in order to access your AppStream environment. Workspaces have a range of devices. For PC over IP, you've got Zero clients, Android, iOS, Windows, and Mac. For WSP, today you've got a Windows client and web access. I'll point that out. Workspaces web access allows you access to your workspace from a web browser. Workspaces web, secure web browser, it's a service in its own right. Yes, we could have done better with the naming convention, but we leave that as a fun and exciting exercise. Workspaces web access to your workspace. Workspaces web, secure access to a browser that we'll manage for you. Workspaces core, there's a range of options depending on the third-party vendor that you've got. If you've already deployed devices or already deployed clients, you can make use of those clients. Vendors supporting, like VMware, you can make use of your existing client deployment today. And usage profile, for AppStream and for Workspaces, there's a concept of needing that resource very quickly, instantly, so the resource is always running that users will connect to. There's a cost for always running because it's taking up CPU time. If, however, the users don't need instant access to their environment, if users are using the service intermittently, and maybe they just need that weekend use, maybe it's once a week because they're normally working in the office, you can have Workspaces and AppStream configured so that the instance isn't always on. For AppStream, it's paused before users work, and for Workspaces, it's an auto stop. When a user disconnects, rather than terminates the session, when the user disconnects, the workspace will be running for a period of time. You get to define that. And if the user hasn't logged on, the workspace hibernates and waits until the user logs on again. And that can have a significant impact in the cost optimization of the Workspaces service. That there is a tool, Workspaces Cost Optimizer. Cost Optimizer for Workspaces. We changed the name around recently and it escapes me. Either one into a search engine will bring you the right solution. The Workspaces Cost Optimizer can run against your Workspaces service and analyze your Workspaces use. Yes, when you've designed your environment, there might be a consideration, how long are you going to be using your workspace for, Robbie? And Robbie might say, I'm going to use it all week. And Robbie does for the first 2 weeks. But after that, Robbie realizes that he's got other things to do, he's a busy guy, and isn't using Workspaces as often as he should. The Workspaces Cost Optimizer will analyze that and switch the workspace between the modes so that you're optimizing your cost for workspaces. I have worked with customers that have deployed Workspaces Cost Optimizer and realized tens, hundreds, tens of thousands of dollars worth of cost optimization just by analyzing the use of workspaces over time. Workspaces Cost Optimizer can also highlight where people have no longer needed their workspace, and so we can terminate those workspaces and not be paying the monthly charge that Workspaces requires. That's great, Andrew. You've talked about different workspaces. You've talked about the well-architected environment. So which is the best workspace family member for me? Can I use them together? And the answer is yes. There's no requirement to only use one service. It might be, or it has genuinely been, that if it's a VDI replacement or a new desktop environment, that it's just Workspaces that people will deploy. Obviously now, we've Workspaces core, but with the inclusion of a desktop view with AppStream, a VDI replacement or a VDI deployment can not only be Workspaces, it can be Workspaces core, and it can be AppStream as well. Bringing into the fore all of the requirements that we have in terms of instance types and regions and capabilities. Is Workspaces the best solution for you, or can you consider Workspaces core or AppStream to deliver that VDI environment? What about on-demand applications, Andrew? Surely that's an AppStream solution. It has been in the past for sure, but we've also customers who are using Workspaces in order to deliver those applications, because the application environment needs Windows 10. But AppStream does allow you to deliver SaaSified applications because it doesn't necessarily require you to present users with a full desktop environment, so you can make a more secure environment with AppStream. It's not to say that every time I want to deliver a SaaSified application, I must use AppStream. What about secure web browsing, Andrew, with Workspaces Web? Because I know the difference between Workspaces Web and Workspaces Web Access. Go you, glad you learned something. With Workspaces Web, yes, you can define an environment that gives secure web browsing and just secure web browsing. Could I deliver it with the other services? Yes, but we take a lot of the complexity and management out of that by providing you with Workspaces Web. So in summary, I hope you can use the comfort and convenience of these well-architected principles to help you with the challenge of making good EUC life choices to help your users, to help your customers. And still, if you're going to POC this because, hey, I didn't realize that that's what AppStream did, or Workspaces Web does sound really useful, let's start a POC, let's start a pilot. And in which case, I'll paraphrase Nelson Mandela, you never lose. You either win or you learn. And for wider learning, please review these additional resources. I'm sure there's a fantastic team ready to dump them into various channels. There is, nods Holly, there is, that's marvelous. That's marvelous. So there's no need to furiously write down all of these URLs that are appearing before your very eyes now that you've opened them, because we're moving beyond the beauty of the spoken word. And finally, please do give us your feedback. Do take the survey, scan me, fill in the information that you have to feed back to me. That ended very badly, but I hope that you've enjoyed yourself. Do we have any questions, Robbie and Holly?
Andy, we have quite a lively chat coming off of your session. So first off,
that's lovely.
Yes, I think you've given a lot.
I think most of them are from my mom, so you just ignore those and go straight to the ones that are from actual people.
Well, you've covered so much today, and I think it's great that we're able to dive into such great detail. So thank you for that. I do want to plug, if you are interested in, of course, getting started with these services, or you are just wanting to explore more about your use cases, you can definitely get in touch with us. That's, of course, at our website, aws.com. Workspaces getting started. We're going to make sure that we get you set up. But as I mentioned, Andy, lots of conversations in the chat for you. And I think I want to take it first. There was a question about do we offer on-premise solutions for cases where, due to regulation data cannot leave certain countries. And I think, Robbie, you kind of wanted to set some context here with this question that came in.
Yeah, I think I would try to pivot it more away from on-premises solutions, because I don't think that's the only way to solve some of these data sovereignty, data residency things. What do you think about that, Andy?
Yeah, we'll give you a low ball question, Andy. Come on the stage, it'll be fine, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. There is a requirement for it. Can we run Workspaces in our own network? Not today, no, but there is a consideration in terms of data sovereignty. And we talked in reliability and we talked in performance about the region support that Workspaces AppStream has. So if you have data sovereignty considerations, there are a broad range of regions available that you could be hosting your Workspaces or AppStream or Workspaces core environments in. I'd be matching that to where you need, rather than considering, do I need to run this in my data center? Because, and Kevin spoke to this, there's a data gravity. It's very likely that you've moved your data to AWS and been compliant by using appropriate regions. Align your Workspaces deployment, your AppStream deployment to those regions, and you should be good to go.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest points that we can make there is if you have those kinds of concerns, you have those kinds of questions, make sure and engage us. We can probably work with you. We have some experts that can help you with those particular kinds of problems, and they leverage some of the things that are actually major differentiators of deploying in Workspaces or deploying in AWS EUC, because we have this breadth of regions and availability zones that people can use.
Regions and capabilities that will help customers for sure. Not only great EUC specialists within AWS, but a great partner network as well. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And like those advantages kind of help like optimize some of the performance concerns that we've seen around VDI solutions.
Indeed, we did talk to the network latency and consideration for regions. I know that sometimes customers go straight to the most cost-efficient region and go, that's the one for me, that's where I'll... But do consider, where are your users going to be based, and can I site my Workspaces AppStream environment closer to those users to give that performance reliability as well as capability across the globe. So yes.
Yeah, and I think that's a core piece of the beauty of cloud is the fact that like I don't have to make this big CapEx investment in a particular data center like I do in my on-premises environment.
Indeed. To go back to the reliability piece where customers are going, yes, I've got my data center with my VDI environment on my desktops at a particular office. I need somewhere else. It's extending that to, do I really need a data center? So I've used it for disaster recovery and business continuity, but I can extend that model and start to reduce my data center footprint. Or alternatively, my data center's full or fullish. And so how can I expand my EUC capability into AWS in order to provide remote applications and desktops for my users?
Yep.
That's great. And I'll just reemphasize that well-architected principle of operational excellence, security, reliability, performance, efficiency, and of course cost optimization that we have heard so much in detail from you, Andrew. There was actually another question that did come through from Telly Velli. We appreciate you tuning in today. This question is actually just looking for a little bit of clarification. It says, so if I'm understanding this correctly, using Workspaces and its Active Directory, I can give each member of my team their own operating system. Each of the operating could host its own installations that relate to their duties. Can you help Telly Velli kind of clarify this? Is this true? Is this really what we're leaning into? Any elaborations you'd like to provide?
Yes, and yes. So within a workspace, we talked to the different Workspaces operating systems. So it could be that you've got 2019 or 2016. So that's a Windows 10 experience. From your user's point of view, it looks like a Windows desktop. I don't know how many users that particular user has. So let's just call it a handful. I want to be able to provide a Windows environment, but can I provide different environments for different users? Maybe I've got an admin team and some developers, and let's do that. I've got an admin team and some developers. The admin team could have a custom environment design. You could create a custom bundle just with the applications that admin team needs. Maybe it's your CRM application, maybe it's a specific browser type, maybe there's some agents that you need in there for antivirus. You can configure that for your admin team. And the developers, they needed a different development environment. Hey, maybe the developers need Ubuntu. Let's create a workspace custom build for those based on Ubuntu with the development applications that they need so that both groups, once their workspace starts, have a really short time to value because all of their applications are already installed. They don't have to install manually, and you've got two different environments. Yes, I've got Ubuntu. Yes, I've got Windows. Yes, they're integrated with an Active Directory environment, but two separate environments depending on the use case for the users. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully there's a yes come in, or alternatively there's a but, and then we're here for another 30 minutes.
Well, and of course, and remember, use that chat channel for any clarification moments that you're needing. Our team of experts ready to answer your questions are there and available. So Tele Valley, if you need more additional clarifications, definitely engage in that chat. But Andy, I think you did a fantastic job helping us with that question.
Well, we'll find out from the experts when I leave the stage and they
For
laugh at
sure,
me.
for
Why did you not say this?
For sure. But another kind of conversation that we were seeing, it wasn't necessarily a specific question that came through, but it was talking about how throughout the presentation that you mentioned the details, is this going to help us solve the chip shortage? Did you see that one?
Solve the chip shortage? I don't know about that, but I think this is actually something that we hear a lot from customers is, I'm having a hard time getting the devices that I need, and I think that there are some use cases for which using virtual desktops can help to stem some of the short-term supply shortages. So yeah, I think whoever said that in the chat, I think you're thinking the right direction.
And of course, sustainability, in that you don't necessarily need to be upgrading the end device all of the time. You can make use of the resources that are in AWS, for sure.
Absolutely. I think it's going to change a lot of the way that we think about those endpoint devices. Because you don't have to worry so much when you're in a VDI environment about data security on that endpoint device, because you're not actually putting any data there, right?
Indeed. We're just sending the data. We're just sending the screen information to the end device. There's no data being stored locally. You can make use of policy. We talked to AppStream being able to do local file saves. You can disable that, depending on the security requirements that your business needs, or your set of users, to talk to that specific example. Maybe there's a team that does need access, and maybe there's a team that doesn't. And you can have some sort of device inspection. Given that Workspaces now supports SAML as well as AppStream, you could use your SAML provider to be doing an inspection of the end device before users connect.
So Andy, we're getting close to the end of our time, but there's one other question that keeps coming up, and I hear this all the time from customers. So I want to put it out there, sort of as our last hurrah for this session. We hear customers, when you were talking about, do I use Workspaces? Do I use AppStream? And what happens if I've deployed on Workspaces and at some point I decide, AppStream's a better fit for my use case? Is it easy to migrate between the two?
Yes and no, from my consulting background. It is possible to stand up an AppStream environment and experiment with that, because it's operating as a pay-as-you-go model. Can I take an existing workspace and just make that into AppStream? No. One thing we would encourage, and we've talked it through today in terms of deployment models, if you've automated, as part of your operational excellence, the application delivery into a workspace, you could switch that application delivery into your AppStream image builder and then create your AppStream environment that you could then work from. Could I just take my applications and install them in AppStream and do a test without impacting my users? For sure, you could do that as well. We've got a number of customers and I think I touched on this, got a number of customers, especially in EMEA, especially France, if I wanted to call out a specific country, who want to move away from Active Directory. They're making use of other identity providers. And AppStream gives them that opportunity. So they're migrating users in tranches to an AppStream environment, delivering the applications that they need, and then slowly ramping down their Workspaces environment. Flip side, we've got some customers who've deployed application environments into AppStream, and that's been great for initial use cases. And as they work through their application set, they found that there's an application that must be on Windows 10. So for those customers, then Workspaces becomes an option for them, just for that specific application set, because that application requires Windows 10. So just because you've gone down a particular route, now you've not necessarily lost. You've learned that you can, yes, deploy an AppStream, but you can make use of other services as well.
That's great. That's super helpful. Thanks, Andy. This has been an awesome session. Lots of great feedback. Folks, keep it coming. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions. So keep those questions coming in the chat. We're going to take a short break here, and we'll be right back. But again, thanks, Andy, for your time today.
No problem, and thanks, Mum, for tuning in.